You have five slides. Anyway. Good afternoon, everybody. I would like to call the October 15, 2019 meeting of the Moorhead Public Service Commission to order. And before we go any further, I'm supposed to read something, so I do apologize for my voice. Customers wishing to address the Commission for items that are not on the agenda, please fill out a request to speak form, and we have those on the table outside by the elevators, and hand it to Cheryl over here prior to speaking. Customers wishing to address the Commission regarding a specific agenda item, other than the rate hearings, will be given an opportunity during the discussion of each item. Each customer will be given 3 minutes to address the Commission. And just to let everyone know, we're here to listen, and we take feedback very seriously. And then any follow-up or feedback will be done by email or on anything that cannot be resolved right in our meeting here. So just wanted to read that. Cheryl, did I do well?
Yes, you did.
Thank you very much. I can take orders, not often, but I can. Let's get to the agenda here. Just in case people didn't remember, we have the rate hearing today starting at 5:30 in about an hour. But we have a couple of items to go through before we go to the rate hearing. So if anybody would like to move to approve the agenda.
Make that motion to approve the agenda.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. How about consent agenda? Do we need anything off, or?
I would move to approve.
I'd second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Both are approved. Customers? No customers to be heard at this point. We wait for them after. Old business. Anybody have old business?
Looking at John, but he's not here.
John is not here, so we have no old business. Actually, I have one item for Chris Knudsen. So I've been hearing all these stories about zebra mussels all over the place. I know we have them in the Red River. What's the state of the intake, or pumping intake from the Red River into the water plant? I know we spent a whole bunch of money on a very expensive grate when we replaced that.
Yeah, Chris Knudsen, Water Division Manager. Just a general overview on zebra mussels. You're absolutely right. They've been found in the Red River, and spoke with a few of the folks who also use the Red River at a recent conference, and they're definitely seeing it north of us on intake structures and in some of their infrastructure. And recently, it was just found in the Fargo water treatment plant. Some of the zebra mussels were in the plant and in some of their interior structures. So we've been monitoring this situation. Back in 2012, we put in a zebra mussel resistant screen out in the middle of the Red River to help mitigate potential issues with the zebra mussels, as we knew that they were kind of developing in the Red River. And so we actually inspect that usually every year or every 2 years, and we haven't found any zebra mussels on the screen. One of the concerns long term is, in addition to the screen, is the transmission line, which is actually a pretty long way. Our intake is about 14th Avenue South, right at the river. So the river intake line is pretty lengthy from our intake to our water treatment plant. And so if the zebra mussels were able to attach inside the pipe, they could occlude the pipe and reduce our transmission flows. So one of the things that we've been really concerned about and looking at closely is monitoring if there is pipe attachment by those mussels. And so last fall, I actually looked at some of the pipe that was pulled as part of the 2021st Street project, and didn't see any zebra mussels in that intake pipe, so we haven't seen them there yet. But we do see them in our wet well structure. So basically, as river water comes from the river into our pump station, there's a concrete wet well, and they attach to the walls, they attach to the pumps. So we see them in there quite a bit. It doesn't really affect our operations as of yet. Mm.
So the concern would be the clogging up of pipes, basically? Yeah,
basically either the clogging of the intake or the clogging of the transmission main. And so we've been fortunate as of yet, but it's a developing situation that we're continuing to monitor. We do have the ability to feed chemical to possibly remove them if they did indeed infest the line, but the chemical can be expensive, and it would be intrusive to our operation, and that we'd have to basically probably switch off the river for a while and go to all well, which has some challenges too. So it's something that we want to try to, if we can, proactively treat them, and hopefully they don't become an issue in our transmission line.
Yeah, cool. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it. Anybody else? Okay, and then we're on item number, actually, we're on the City Council report. Sorry about that. Deb, do you have anything from City Council for us?
I'm just thankful for coming last night and giving us a very thorough presentation. I think that the mayor had some feedback of maybe things we would do differently in the future, but it was very informative. So thanks.
Yeah,
I
like,
hope your feet are feeling good.
yeah, like start the 15-minute timer a lot earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So through
Thank
how many
you.
slides did you get of the 71?
I think there were 61 slides, and I probably made it through 51 of them. But it was very thorough. You're going to actually get part of it tonight, too, so.
Cool. Any member of Public Service Commission? You guys have anything?
No, our work is being discussed tonight, so.
Yeah. Thanks. General Manager? In addition to the report you have?
No, well, actually, we have, Chris is going to introduce Rushi and do a short presentation, so welcome other employees of MPS.
Chris Knutson, tonight we're lucky to have Ruchi with us. Ruchi is a doctoral student at NDSU. She's been working with MPS for about 4.5 years in a part-time capacity and has done a great job on a variety of different projects. One of the cool things she does is something called the Red River, I believe, Water Treatment Festival with river keepers. And she's going to share a little bit about that tonight. And she has done some great work for MPS.
Good evening, everybody, and thanks for giving me the opportunity to be here before you all. Thanks, Chris, for the wonderful introduction, and I'm not going to take a lot of time. I've made a couple of slides. I thought pictures talk more than words, so I think. So this is just my first slide. Can we go like full screen? Oh, I guess I can just do it from here. Thank you. So I know Chris talked about the Red River Water Festival, but before jumping into that, there was this new event. It's called Seeds for Hope. It's an educational outreach program which is organized by the Tri-College in Fargo, Moorhead, and this is the first time that MPS also participated in that. And so just a brief, can we go on the next slide? Sure, because it doesn't. So this is what we briefly talk about. I mean, I go out there and there's a bunch of kids and we want to talk about what we do at the treatment plant. So just a couple of steps that we talk about is aeration, coagulation, sedimentation, filtration, and disinfection, because these are certain things that, you know, we can actually dramatize and show and tell to the kids. So this is what we talk about. And so this is the workshop that I did. This is a picture right out of the workshop area that I had. So there were 1,400 kids that participated. This was the whole day event. And I was doing like a 10-minute presentation with each class. And the kids ranged from kindergartners to 5th graders. You can go next. And this was our setup at the tech school. And yeah. So, yeah. they enjoyed. So the Red River Water Festival is something that we've been doing it for years, even before like when I started working at MPS. And people have done great because Christine Holland, who's the executive director for the River Keepers, she says that our workshop is one of the very popular ones amongst the kids, and a lot of the teachers seem to be liking the work that we do. So it's a 5-day event which hosts 2,100 kids, and they're all 4th graders from different schools in Moorhead, Minnesota and North Dakota. And so I just have a list of the schools that participated. So 31 schools and 98 classes is what we had this year. And this was our setup, and it's always at the atrium. So the moment you enter the YEMCOM center and the open area that you have, I think we've had this spot for all the years that we've been there. And so yeah, people can come over from all over. They check our workshop from above from the rooftop, and the people who are moving around. And so just wanted to share some pictures over here and how the kids participate. So one of the differences between the Red River Water Festival and the Seeds of Hope, the first one that I talked about, was the first one was like a 10-minute session, so I couldn't give like a hands-on to every kid because that would have been a lot. But this is, with the Red River Water Festival, it's a 20-minute session that I get with each class, so we can do a hands-on activity with the kids, which you can see in the next few slides. So yeah, we give a theoretical information like, what do we do at the plant? And if they have any questions, they can raise their hands at any moment. And then this is the hands-on activity where we show them how the coagulation, where they can add a pinch of alum to the dirty water, and then they get to do their own filtration stuff. So that's what they get to do during this. And that is all. And yeah, if we have a bunch of pictures, because towards the end, the kids love to have these group pictures where they can just show all their excitement. And in fact, I have I thought why not get some feedback, some tangible feedback from the kids. So we printed a bunch of sheets where the kids in groups, they could just write what they think about the water in this one droplet, and they know that, okay, it's a teamwork and what Moorhead is doing in the city. So yeah, if you want to look around, I'll be around. Thank you, everybody.
Very cool. Thank you, Richie. Thanks a lot. Some of the stuff looked like sludge to me. I'm not.
Well, it wasn't the real sludge, but we really had to dilute it because some of the kids were like, "Oh, that looks like coffee," And I'm like, "Okay, you don't get to touch or drink or put anything in your mouth here." but the kids are always excited.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks for doing that.
For sure.
Cool. Wonderful. Mr. Schwant, do you want to talk about item number 9D?
Item number 9D, is that the,
Budget.
oh, the budget, yes, yes.
Budget one.
Yeah, this is the budget item that we've gotten. Actually, Mark Moylanen, our controller, who actually put all the slides together for the presentation that I made last night to the Moorhead City Council. But since he put the slides together and did such a nice job, and he runs our budget process, I thought, especially since I've got a little bit of a scratchy throat today, I thought, let's let Mark make the presentation. Plus, Deb will like it, because she doesn't have to listen to me again. Yeah.
And we do not have connectivity, so. This is going to be fun. Now, when this was put together, it was originally 5 slides. I was requested to add a little bit more. It was going to be short and sweet, so 71, I guess, or 61 was a magic number.
That's what happens when you let engineers do a budget presentation.
Yeah, and again, I'm following an exciting project with something a little dry. Mr. Schwant's going to take a quick look and see. I don't see power. But again, this is a budget presentation prepared for the commission. And as Mr. Schwant stated last night, he presented the exact same thing to the city council. A lot of feedback from them, I guess, and Councilperson White, what you're getting today is the understudy's understudy. So there'll be a lot of missteps, maybe a lot of flat notes. So, well, I was told to make sure I keep my knees loose because after a couple hours last night, I think he was feeling it.
I wasn't able to be there. How many hours did it last?
I think it was slightly under 2. So it wasn't quite Star Wars Episode 4, but it was.
That was just that part. We were 4.5.
Wow. So you guys never made it to the powwow then?
No, we never, I got there and it was, I got to go see an empty gym.
Well, we'll just get started on it. I think I can work with Cheryl. Again, we're part of the MPS team, and we work well together. Now, some of these slides were kind of geared towards, this is our first formal time we've presented this. Normally, we just give a binder, a little bit dry. So what we've done is we've taken the binder, kind of collapsed it or summarized it in a PowerPoint presentation. And it starts with what is an overview of who is Moorhead Public Service. As you can see, serve more than 20,000 customer accounts within the community of over $43,000. We receive no tax dollars, so everything we make is revenue based on sales. Nearly $10 million will be transferred to the city of Moorhead, general capital improvement and economic funds over the 2020 calendar year. Moorhead Public Service is run by a commission appointed by the city council, 5 members. The commission approves the utility budget and establishes the water and electric rates for customers. Rule number 1 I just violated, basically read the slide item by item, so we'll try and watch that going forward.
Well, only 60 to go, right?
Only 60 to go, and of course this isn't working. There we go. Here's the 2019 Moorhead Public Service Commission, the 5 members. Commissioner Daly, Commissioner Meeland, Commissioner Thompson, 2 absent today, Mr. Agala and Mr. Anderson. As presented in the presentation last night, we added in what is the value of public power and public water. The 3 key things that Mr. Schwant wanted to point out and that are key for this is that we provide reliable and high quality electric and water utility services at competitive rates. There's local ownership, local control, and again restating that their transfer is almost $10 million annually from the electric and water divisions to the city's budget. What we're looking at tonight is the overall utility bill for Moorhead. The Moorhead utility bill, there's a couple of examples up here on the board. They consist of 2 different parts, the Moorhead Public Service electric and water charges, and then the city of Moorhead service charges for their garbage and recycling, stormwater, street utility. The average apartment bill does not include water. And as you can see, both bills contain, City of Moorhead's flat charges. Here's a comparison between Fargo and Moorhead apartments. This is a common question that we get on our customer service areas. Why is my bill so much higher in Moorhead? Over in Fargo, usually on their utility bill, they're just getting 1 charge, and that's for their electric utility. On the City of Moorhead charge, there's the electric utility, which is, as you can see on the top half of the screen, the electric is very similar between the 2 entities. And then the City of Moorhead utility bill contains all of the city charges and fees. So it adds about $54 worth of those types of fees that they don't see directly in a Fargo apartment. They might have them assessed as part of their rent. And we're experiencing a little technical difficulty here for 1 second. All right. So this is a couple of graphs. We're going to go into the electric budget, revenues and inflows, just to give you an idea of where the inflows come from on the electric division. The biggest portion comes from the sale of the electricity to consumers. That's the big blue circle, big blue pie graph on the left side of the screen. The right screen shows where that comes from within customer classes. We have residential, we have some general service, which is your large industrial, we have small general service, street lighting, dual fuel, water division, and then some lighting for security and highways. Here's our expenses for the electric division. Biggest portion of that is your purchase power and transmission, a little over half of all of our expenses and outflows. A couple other larger items, salary and wages are about $4.2 million. Other operating expenses, $2.446, which is our maintenance and upkeep. Another one up there, top left quadrant is the total city transfers projected to be about 9.08 million for 2020. Just to keep in comparison how the city of Moorhead's residential electric bill compares to others, Moorhead's listed in the middle for 2019, the red number 8860, is the average utility bill for a customer using 800 kilowatts. The median bill for the entities represented here is about $88.66. Low 73.30 over in Watertown. 132.80 is the high level at Red River. So as you can see, we're in the middle. We're definitely lower than the higher amounts, but we're, you know, very steady in terms of 4 or 5 onto the left. The water division, here's the sales by customer class. The water division, that's their primary source of revenue, is sales to customers. Similar customer groups, we've got residential, commercial, apartments, industrial types. You know, just about half comes from residential sales. Water division expenses, similar makeup, you know, salaries and wages is the largest expense within the water division because we don't have to purchase our water per se as we do from the electric side. The total transfers on the water division are about 623,000, which is 5% of the sales plus 126,000 that goes to the capital projects fund. How Moorhead residents' water bill compares. 2019, about $35.92 for a user of 600 cubic feet through a 3/4 inch meter. In 2020, expected to go up to $37.98. Again, the red and blue very comfortably in the middle, substantially lower than the Breckenridge High, and comfortably, unfortunately, uncomfortably higher than the low in the area of Alexandria. What causes some of these differences is how the water is treated. You know, we get ours from the water, a little bit more higher maintenance costs to keep the water clean. More public service, again, we try to stress high quality, reliable. On our water division side, the water division has been awarded best tasting through AWWA 2009, 10, and 14. I think they took a couple of years off, and Chris can correct me, just to give someone else a chance to win, spread the wealth around. It's still the best tasting water, I think. Here's some energy programs that we have through the electric division that have been in place for a number of years. Starting on the right, the Capture the Wind was the first program that was initiated. This was the landmark windmills that were generated as I think a test pilot back in the late 90s, a little bit before I got here. After that, they continued that project with Capture the Energy after the windmills were paid off, and it allowed people to contribute to look at other alternative energy sources. About 5-6 years ago, we started the Capture the Sun program, which allowed individual investors to purchase solar panels rather than, you know, placing them on their own homes at considerable expense. You could scale down and buy a panel or two for what seemed to be a reasonable price, between $500 and $1,000, and we've been offering that program now for 5 years, 6 years. I believe that we've filled our quota for the upcoming calendar year, so we'll be again offering that program for 2021. And then another program that we're just starting to get underway is the Capture the Earth program, which is looking at geothermal options, EV charging stations, just using the energy, other energy we can capture from the earth that is renewable.
So a quick question, Mark, on the Capture Earth. Have we talked to the school board about, because they're ripping apart the parking lots for the new school if it gets built, should we talk to them about maybe doing geothermal underneath the parking lot there?
It's within our wellhead protection area of the Moorhead wells, so we really don't want,
Can't go in there, okay.
can't go in there.
Yep,
So
got it.
we did look at it, but it won't be feasible,
Thanks.
unfortunately.
Well, for 2020, we're proudly introducing a new program that's called Bright Energy Choices. And this is a program that anybody can sign up for to support the development of renewable resources. Currently, the product mix of the energy that we receive from our suppliers is about 37% is made from non-renewable sources. The other 63% is made from renewable. What you can elect to do is enroll in this program, and they'll charge a premium of 0.005 cents to each kilowatt so that you can be considered 100% green energy. What that equates to is 0.00185 for each kilowatt, because you can't take a kilowatt and divide it into 37% and whatever. So we assign the rate to a whole kilowatt. For an average homeowner using about 900 kilowatts per month, this program will cost them only $19 per month. Again, this program, or per year, $19 per year. And again, we'll be recruiting and having a sign-up offering beginning after the first of the year. And I'm sure at some point, Energy Services Manager Dennis Eisenbraun will do a presentation on how we're going to get people enrolled and what's going to happen with that. So now we're on to the meat of what this is, and this is the budget for the Moorhead Public Service portion of the bill. We're going to be focusing on the electric and water budgets and the financial position and the changes that we expect to propose for 2020. Overview of the budget process. The commissioners have all been members of the budget committee, so they're kind of familiar with the process, but there's a number of stages that take place. The first meeting in August appoints the budget committee. That can change annually. We review all previously approved actions, set a budget and rate hearing timeline, and then accept a preliminary report with preliminary budget numbers. Here's the schedule that was set up for 2019. We are at the October 15th portion of this schedule. As you can see, there's still meetings, a commission meeting on the 4th where we'll further review any budgets or any commentary that we might receive between now and then. We'll do it again on November 19th meeting. And then on the December 17th meeting, we'll actually review the final budget and approve rates for 2020. The process that takes place after that first meeting is from July through mid-October, we're putting together all of our inputs. We're gathering information from our operating budgets. We're taking information from our capital plans on both the electric and water side. We're also incorporating our bonds, other debt, and city transfers. In addition, we're holding meetings with the budget committee, and we're putting together a final budget binder, which is being presented tonight, that has all of our initial information to support the numbers and our recommendations. The meeting right now that we're holding today is we're going to review the budget committee recommendations. We met this afternoon to finalize and get concurrence that there are some things that they agree that the rates that we're going to propose are they think are reasonable and fair for right now. We'll update anything that has occurred that will impact the upcoming budgets. We'll receive, or you as a commission will receive the preliminary budget. And then after that, Mr. Schwant will hold the rate hearings. And those will take place again this evening at 5:30. So I have to watch the clock. I still have 25 more minutes to go. From October through January 1, there'll be a 30-day comment period that will start today. It will end in mid-November. We'll continue to review the budgets, anything else that might come up that was unforeseen. We'll have the meeting again, November, review comments. The second meeting in November, same thing. January 1st is when the new rates will go into effect if anything has been enacted. And again, this is a process that occurs annually, year after year. At this point, we'll go right into the budgets. And each of the budgets for the electric and water are very similar. We'll go over our revenues and inflows projected for the upcoming year, talk about expenses and outflows, our capital expenditure and financing plans. We'll review transfers, and then we'll have a rate recommendation for each side, the electric and the water. We'll start with the electric division. The electric division has operating inflows of about $45 million. So we'll start with that budget. The electric or the water division's budget is about $9.95 million for 2020. Again, we saw this slide earlier where the inflows come from on the electric division, expenses that occur on the electric division, how we compare. As you can see, this is how it got up to 61 slides. There's a lot of repeat information. Projected inflows on the water and electric side, most of the money comes from consumer sales, 42.02 million, and then there's other inflows of 2.76 that come in. The biggest one of those is annually we receive anywhere between $2 to $2.3 million in Southwest Power Pool transmission plant reimbursements. That allows them, as the city of Moorhead over time has built up a pretty good transmission, and being a layman account, I equate it as we're like a hub. If you think about in terms of airlines, we're a hub. We have a lot of electricity coming in, comes through here, gets recirculated out to other cities. So we have a lot of good assets here that transmission pool is able to use. So they reimburse us for the use of those activities. We also receive income from leases on the Centennial Generating Station, which is located over by the Moorhead Youth Hockey Arena. And then we have a very substantial fiber underground connection that we utilize and we lease out to different entities, usually governmental. We also use it for a lot of our internal tracking and our internal communications. The remainder of the fees come from new account fees, late charges, and miscellaneous fees. We do have some things that we're going to be proposing for the rate hearing today, and that's some changes in some fees. It's not necessarily rates, but it's in fees. And they have a lot to do with collection actions that are affecting our customers. In particular, we're looking to reduce the late fee percentage from 5% of each outstanding bill to 1%. And the overall impact to both the electric and water division combined will be about $100,000. We're also looking to lower the disconnection and reconnection charges. Currently, we've got it based on a cost of service, which is what we feel it costs to have the individuals go out and do the service. And what we're moving towards is more of a cost, consumer-based, where we're looking to eliminate or reduce some of the upfront costs that they might have to incur to get their service reconnected. So what we're going to do is reduce it from a first-time disconnection. We won't charge them anything for disconnection, reconnection. We'll charge zero for that, but we'll explain to them that you're going to have to watch your bills in the future, and that this is a bill that comes every month, and try and help assist with the planning on that, and make sure that's to the top of mind as things that should get first. If they are disconnected a second time, we'll increase that. Currently it's $70, $35 for each disconnection, reconnection. We'll lower that to $15 for the disconnection, $15 for the reconnection. It's not as an extreme financial hardship as it is right now, but it does help us recoup some of our costs that it does take to get someone out there.
Because right now we actually have to send somebody out there, right?
Currently, we send somebody out until we get a full AMI infrastructure in place, which is not scheduled to occur to begin until 21 to 23. At that point, we'll be able to do a lot of it electronically. So as Bill mentioned in his presentation last night, it's just more of a lesson. We're transitioning to that stage. We know it's coming, and it's something that we can do to help our client base, our customer base right now, is to lower those fees, because currently, they have to pay a deposit and reconnection, and it can be an additional $120 for a disconnection, and they're already disconnected. So we're trying not to add on, so to speak. So we're looking to lower these. It does going to have some impact to our overall budget, or for potential revenues, but we can absorb it at this time.
Okay, so we're going to eat the cost until we go AMI in 3-4 years, whenever that happens. And then we don't have the actual cost anymore because we can remotely turn on and off.
That's what we've been promised by the vendors, yes, and it's currently in place in places where they've tested it and they know that it does work.
Okay.
So it'll remove people out in the field actually going to physical houses and having to do the disconnection turns on that they're doing right now.
Cool, thanks.
Okay. Another item that we're doing is we're reducing the returned item charge from $30 down to $10. That closely aligns with what we're currently being charged by our banking entities. So again, we're not passing on the extra cost, again, in an effort to lower the overall impact to those that might be struggling. The last item we're doing is we're eliminating the after-hour emergency call-out fee, which is rarely initiated but has caused some conflict over the last couple of months. It's not the same thing, though, as if you've been disconnected during the day and want to get reconnected. So we do want to separate that. We usually just do disconnects and reconnects during regular business hours. So that's the 8 a.m. to 4:30. If someone is disconnected, we would get to them right away the next morning when they contact our office. But we will eliminate this after-hour emergency fee, which was originally about $160, $165. And it, again, was not used very often, but has been assessed in the past. Going back into the revenues, those are two things that will impact the revenues. They'll lower it a little bit, but projected operating inflows for 2020 are expected to be $44.7 million. Operating expenses on the electric side are projected to be about 30.4 million. This is not including transfer or capital things. This is just strictly the operating expenses. The largest operating expense within the electric division is the purchase power and transmission, which we receive all of our energy from two primary suppliers, Western Area Power, WAPA, and Missouri River. We get about 50% of the actual electricity from each, but WAPA is a government subsidized program, and their energy costs are a lot lower, but you're only capped. You can only purchase so much from them. Missouri River is where we purchase all of our secondary electricity above our original allotment from WAPA, and again, as you can see, it's almost twice the cost. Here's a little bit of overview as to who WAPA is, what they do for us, where they're located. The Western Area Power Administration, covers the western half of the United States. They serve a bunch of areas there. They're hydroelectric, and transmission is what their primary energy services to MPS are. Looks like their headquarters in Lakewood, Colorado. Second one, primary that we use is Missouri River Energy Services. They have a variety of energy sources, some renewable, some non. Their primary renewable are hydro, wind power, and solar. They also do have some nuclear and some fossil. That's where that 37% of what we receive comes from fossil fuels and nuclear, and we're trying to move away from that by offering everybody a chance to enroll in the program and purchase their energy from clean sources. Electric Division's projected other operating costs and expenses are the three parts of the pie that you can see there highlighted in color. 14% of it is salaries and wages. That includes all of our linemen, our locators, dispatchers, customer accounts and services. The other operating expenses is the maintenance to our different systems that we have out there that produce electricity, that transmit it within the town, transmit it out of town, and then also distribute it from our transmission lines to each individual house or each individual business. Included in that $2.45 million projected for 2020 is our customer accounting materials and postage, as well as our compliance and conservation costs that we're required to do by law. Another large portion is our depreciation. And you'll see when we talk about our capital, we'll be replacing more capital than we're depreciating, because obviously this is stuff that was purchased years and years ago at a lower cost, and we have to maintain it, upkeep it, and make sure we keep current and can have adequate capacity. Just to recap, we start with our revenues, 44.7. After our operating expenses, we come down to 14.3 net operating before non-operating items and transfers. Our non-operating inflows and outflows are not significant, but yet they're important to consider. The top non-operating revenue item is $333,000 we get from performing the billing services for the city of Moorhead. In addition, we have investment income that we earn, market gains, and then our outflows, we have a number of bonds outstanding, and the interest payments on those for 2020 are expected to be about $450,000. Leaving our net inflows before capital and transfers at $14.79 million. Again, if anybody has any questions, please let me know. I see a lot of maybe questions, might be you're pondering them, but here's our capital expenditures planning and what we can put into that. We plan for 10 years. We consider what type of replacements and upgrades we might need to make. If we have some capacity issues, we'll look at where do we need to maybe add new substations, new equipment. From that, we try and figure out how we're going to pay for it. We have a number of options that we can use. We can fund it from current year operations, reserves, or bond issuances, a combination of all of those, or through some alternative sources. Here's a timeline of some major projects that are occurring on the electric division over the next 5 or 6 years. Currently, we have the 2019, 2020, 20th and 21st Street project, where Moorhead Public Service Electric Division has contributed $1.4 million to relocate some transmission lines. In 2020 and 2021, we'll be working on some southeast and northeast substation upgrades and updates. Those two substations have been serving the community for a number of years. They are in need of some upgrades and some enhancements. So projected this cost about $3.5 million in that. In addition, we're looking to possibly add a large capacity EV station for electric vehicles. We expect that we might be a major hub between Minneapolis and, say, Montana, so some large trucking firms might want to look at us as a place to stop in and refuel their electric vehicles as that grows. We've mentioned briefly the AMI. Through 2020 through 2023, we're looking to actually install automated metering infrastructure at a cost of about $8.1 million total between electric and water. Of that, it'll approximately cost $5.1 million for the electric division.
Maybe you should mention as well that this is not a voluntary thing, right? This is because we are driven by our suppliers on time of use rates. So in order to pass those rates on properly, we have to put that in. So this is not just we need new meters project.
That is correct. Currently, when we read meters, we read them once per day or once per month. What this will allow us to do is set it to whatever frequency we want, every 10 minutes, 15, every half hour, every hour. And from that, we'll be able to do time of use billing. We'll also be able to do move in and move outs when we might have some timing differences. Right now, we have to do some prorating and stuff like that, where this will give us accurate readings. Every day we'll have something, so we'll be able to really tell what someone has used in both electric and water usage from day to day, in fact, from hour to hour.
So will that mean we will have a single date where my bill is coming and not 16 different per month kind of a thing?
One hopes, one hopes. So that's a major project that'll be coming up, and again, starting hopefully in 2020 with a 3-year rollout. And another one that's coming up is with the expansion in the south area of Moorhead, there will be a need for a new substation. And as you can see, we're looking at $8 million for just a single substation down south, whereas we're looking at 3.5 to do the upgrades at the other 2 substations, because again, we have the bones there, but the new south substation will be built from scratch, so again, a much higher cost. So here's what's actually going to occur in 2020. In 2020, there is $5.6 million in capital projects that are expected to incur. 2.4 is some substation upgrades. We've been having issues with one of our substations next to the highway with the chemicals that they use for de-icing, and it's been affecting our equipment, so we're trying to find some ways to mitigate that, and it's going to be costly, but it's built into the budget. We'll be also doing our $1.8 million in our annual distribution extensions and upgrades. That's where we build into new developments, or we will replace areas where the infrastructure has now reached its end of life, and we know it needs to be replaced. So we have annual projects that are occurring for that purpose. We also have some smaller items where we'll be replacing some vehicles and equipment, doing some campus maintenance projects, upgrading our security, and then we're also looking at having some funds available for some efficiency, electrification, and emerging technologies, and that would be like your EV stations or something else that might come up like solar storage or battery storage. But right now we have $250,000 budgeted for that.
So a question, what's our replacement cycle for vehicles?
We usually run 10, 12 years. We have stretched some out even further. Again, we look again at maintenance. As if it's taken a lot of maintenance and it's under that 10 years, we'll justify it might be time to leave it, but we usually go 10 to 12 on most of our heavy equipment.
Okay. Thanks.
Financing for all of our capital projects. As we remember months ago, we talked about our net inflows before capital spending. It was 14.7. During the year, we have non-cash depreciation that we're going to add back because it doesn't actually affect our cash. We have the 5.5 in capital expenditures that are expected to occur in 2020. All of these will be actually funded through operations. We aren't going to do any financing this year. Our cash reserve and cash position at this time is sufficient that we'll just pay it out of our revenues. In addition, we'll have $0.5 million in bond payments. And we're also going to be looking to redeem some 2010 bonds that we purchased or that we issued back in 2010. The timing is right to redeem those because higher interest rates on these bonds. The cash position of the electric division is such that they can afford to get rid of them. And the impact to it's a $7 million bond debt, and the cash impact to the electric division is $4.9 million. What we'll be doing is presenting it to you, and then in turn, if your approval, they'll be submitted to the council for action to approve the redemption of those bonds. It will save us approximately $1.1 million in interest by redeeming these at the high interest rate that was in place when they were issued.
Will we take the funds out of reserves or other operations?
It'll come out of our reserves, as well as we'll be able to transfer some funds from restricted reserves into free reserves to help pay for it as well.
And we're not going to get below our low range then, right? And we're not going to dip into
No.
the AMI reserves, correct?
No,
Because we don't want to have to go into a rate increase for the AMI, the $8 million AMI. So
nope, the AMI is already built in there. That would be funded out of cash and reserves, as well as this buy down. So we have put that in place, and it fits within the reserve policy. We've got that planned out for 5 years. We actually have it planned out for 10, but we really focus on 5, and we do not dip below that. It gets close when we do the final rollout of that AMI, rollout, but it gets close, but it still stays above that minimum.
when do we think we're going to do the next bonding?
For the electric division?
Yep.
The electric division would probably be based on this timeline, that substation in 2023, 2025.
Okay. So by then, the reserves should be back up.
That is correct.
Yep.
So after our net flows or net inflows and outflows before transfers, we have $6.025 million. In 2020, we're scheduled to transfer to the city $9.08 million from the electric division. So after all said and done, even considering the bond pay down and everything, we'll be having net outflows from after transfers of $3.057 million, which is, again, from our cash position or reserves. Here's a summary page that actually goes through those 5 or 6 slides that we went through previously, just in one schedule, starting with the operating revenues, going through the operating expenses, non-operating, and transfers. This is what will be covered at the rate hearing in a little bit. This is the recommendations that we've kind of discussed with the budget committee. And what we're looking at electric is no overall rate increase in 2020, and projected future rate increases for the next 4 years at 0. It's been very beneficial from our suppliers, as they don't anticipate raising their rates. And again, that's a key component of what helps drive our rates. And so at this time, they're looking at no rate increases, and it's great for our consumers here, the residents here in Moorhead.
So that's both suppliers, WAPA and...
Both suppliers, yeah. They might do some minor, transmission-related adjustments, but what we've heard is that they're not going to be significant enough for us to have to raise our rates based on today's budget. Again, we'd go through this every year. So next year, if something comes up that's unforeseen, or we might have some, lower than expected sales or higher than expected sales, we may need to look at, suggesting or recommending a rate change or increase. But as right now, the way we have it lined out for the next 4 or 5 years with things that we know, we're looking at zeros on the electric side.
On the WAPA side, no concern about drought, dams are full kind of a thing?
Exactly, dams are full.
Okay.
Yep.
As part of this, we also are looking to restructure the rates for our streetlight charges. This doesn't really have impact on the residential customer. We're just looking to change the way we charge for streetlights by introducing a fixed per unit charge, as well as reducing the energy rate usage. Currently, when we build them by the energy rate usage, and at first glance, it looks like, well, why do I pay 10 cents at home and we charge, 35 cents or 25 cents to power a light? And that's because we don't have a fixed component. So this year, we're introducing a fixed component to the street lights. In addition, there's going to be some fee changes. We went over the late charges being reduced and the reduction of the collection-related charges. And then there'll be slight increases to the 2 most common private security light options we have out there of 20 and 30 cents each. But again, that's not going to generate a lot of extra revenue, but it does align the cost of operating those lights to our cost of service studies. Again, another repeat slide. This is how we compare regionally. We're right in the middle. Again, no change from, expected change from 2019 to 2020. And now we go on to the Water Division budget. If anybody needs a break, this would be a perfect time to do it. But same format as electric. We'll go over the revenues, expenses, transfers. Again, projected sales by water class, about $9.95 million. Water Division expenses, salaries and wages, the largest component. Chemicals is the second largest. Or I'm sorry, that's third. No, it's not. This is really good. Operating is, other operating expenses are second, followed by depreciation and chemicals. Here's how a resident's bill compares to others in the region. Again, Moorhead Public Service, middle. Even after the increase, we'll be at $37.98. Again, operating revenues for Water Division are about $9.95 million. What we have to struggle with on that side is that the volume, sales volume itself has been flat for a number of years. And so we aren't selling any more water than we used to, but we have to charge a higher rate for what is used, as well as the fixed cost to keep the system up and working. And there is quite a substantial investment in the infrastructure. As mentioned earlier, we're reducing some fees. Late charges will be reduced to 1%. We're eliminating or reducing disconnection, reconnection charges on the first time disconnect and then subsequent disconnects. Water Division operating expenses are about $7.7 million projected in 2020. Salaries and wages is a large portion, depreciation, other operating expenses, and chemicals. We'll go over each of those little area groups here in the following slides. Chemicals is the largest non-personnel related expense within the division. It's very expensive because there's only a limited number of suppliers, highly regulated, and the volume of chemicals needed is based on water qualities. The primary chemicals that are used is lime, soda ash, ozone, chlorine, and ferric sulfate. The lime is obviously something we're going to be looking to eliminate, but we need it to get the water treated, but we don't want it in the final product. Other projected expenses, 2020, would be Water Division salaries and benefits. This is for our water plant operators, the water distribution support that's out in the field, repairing water main breaks, installing and assisting in water main replacements, the locators, the chemists that ensure that the water quality is good, meter readers, customer accounts, and administrative and IT staff. As with the electric division, there's a number of systems within the overall water system, so there's some maintenance that has to go on to make sure that they're maintained and up to standards. So the production, which would be the plant, there's a lot of work that happens there. The transmission, which gets the large pipes that distributes the water from the plant, and then the actual distribution from the transmission system to each individual household or business or unit. And then as in the electric side, we have our accounting and postage and depreciation. So from operations, we expect to have net operating income about $2.241 million before we consider capital and transfers. Here's our non-operating income. Again, if you'll notice on this side, we were actually making more from the inflows than on the outflows, and we have a lot of debt currently on the water side. We've had a number of large projects occur in the past 5 or 6 years where we've had to build a new pumping station from the river to get water over to the treatment plant. We've had to build a high-pressure pumping station to make sure that we're regulating and having sufficient flows throughout the system. We had to do a project downtown where we participated with the city, a SIMS project where we did some work on 8th Street and Main Avenue. So we have quite a bit of debt out there right now, and for 2020 we'll need, looks like $703,000 just to pay the interest on those obligations. So our inflows before capital spending and transfers is about $1.9 million. Again, with the electric, we do have a long-range planning process that we put in place where we look at what kind of changes and upgrades we might need over the next 10 years. Same options for paying for those necessary capital expenditures. Here's a little graphic timeline of the things that are expected to be coming forward in the Water Division. The big one that's coming up this year is the lime sludge dewatering facility, expected to cost $7.3 million through bonding. We're also looking to build a new south side water tower and install some transmission lines at $3.1 million. Again, that'll also be bonded. So there'll be some actions needed later on this year to get that bonding before the council for approval. In 2021, we'll be doing some work on the I-94 water tower to rehabilitate it. It's not being rebuilt, but it's going to be, made structurally sound, repainted. As mentioned in the electric division, automated metering infrastructure is going to be put into place 2020 through 23 on both the electric and water. The water side looks like it'll need about $3 million worth of funding. And then in 2023 and 2028, Highway 10 raw water, which is the connection from the wells over by the Glendon area, they'll need to be upgraded. They're aged right now. They're sufficient. They'll be able to last a couple more years, but it's a major project that's expected to be about $12.5 million. And then in 2028, tentatively, we're looking at some work that might be done to also be able to tap into the same aquifer, but down in the Sabin area, and get that water sent back up here to Moorhead for treatment. So within 2020, there's a number of large projects. As you can see, $12.1 million to be funded from operations, and then we'll also be bonding. Largest, again, is that lime sludge dewatering facility. $3 million, again, for the new water tower down south, water main replacements, annual process. In 2020, it's a little bit larger than we usually do because we wanted to align with the city's street projects. We don't want to have to go in later and dig up a street after they've done their resurfacing. So I know Chris and his team have been working with the city as to what are your plans for the next 5 years, and we've trying to match as much as we can, but this year it's a little bit more than normal. We try to do about $1 million a year.
A quick question on that. How much do we have left on the cast iron, Chris?
28 miles or so.
28 miles. And then the AC, how many do you have there?
About 12.
12. So 28 cast iron, 12 AC, but we're going to go cast iron first, right? So the 1.7 million, what's that in distance? Is that a mile or a mile and a half?
I believe it's about 8,000 feet.
Can you do this metric? Sorry.
Absolutely. I don't know when you said AC, but.
Yeah, we use that word because the whole length of the word is not as pleasant. It's asbestos concrete,
Okay.
which is inert, right, Chris? Mm-hmm. It's proven inert until you touch it. So it's going to go out after cast iron. That goes out. The pipe is solid, but it's something we want to get out.
Okay. I see we're pushing up on 5:30, so I'll kind of zip through this as best I can. But again, as we did with electric, this is the plan for 2020 for the water division. Again, we'll be looking for some help from the council as well as from the commission to initiate this, is to look for some help to see if we can be put up on the list for necessary projects for state funding to help pay for that raw water transmission line and the Sabin well field and transmission connection. Those are very significant projects, and as you can see right now, the water division is working with inflows of $9.9 million, and that's more than 1 year's worth of income or inflows just to pay for a couple of these projects. So we'll definitely try and be creative as how we can get these financed and look for some assistance from the council. Here's the financing highlights. Again, we have revenues before transfers of $1.9 million. Capital expenditures within the year were just summarized in the previous page, $12.1 million. Of that, we're going to finance $11.5 million. So there'll be some actions taken to the commission and then to the commission and then from the commission to the council. Bond principal payments and loan payments, again, almost $1.7 million. Again, a lot of debt out there for projects that have occurred in the last couple of years. As a result of all this financing work, the net inflows and outflows before transfers is $511,000. During 2020, the water division will be transferring about $500,000 to the general fund, $126,000 to the capital improvement fund for net inflows and outflows after transfers of a reserve decrease of $112,000. Again, a recap, and here's our recommendation. staff's recommendation. Again, it's been reviewed by the Budget Committee. The overall increase for 2020 projected at 6% overall. Projected rate increases for the next 4 or 5 years is about 6%, and that's, again, to keep up with the projects that we have, to make sure they're sufficient to cover the debts, as well as keep the WAMP going, the water main replacement, and get rid of all the cast iron and suspect information, so we don't have, again, we don't want to like turn into on the news like some other cities around the nation by having some issues with their water sources. Again, as with the electric, we're looking to reduce late charges from 5 to 1 and reduce some fee-related items. So this is the conclusion, and this is, again, the impact to homeowners. I'll get through this as fast as I can, because this will also lead into the rate hearing. But this is a sample home for a sample bill, 2019, what it cost versus what it was expected to cost in 2020 for the average $185,900 home, which is kind of used for the city's budget purpose when they look at real estate or taxes. So the average homeowner, a house this size, will look at an increase in the Moorhead public service charges of $226 related to water, which is about 1.37%, and $1.55 from the city of Moorhead charges for wastewater. Total impact about $3.81, or an overall increase of 1.6%. For an apartment dweller, no change other than an increase to the fixed wastewater connection charge, up 95 cents. Their bill will go up about, will go up 95 cents from about 111 to 112, or 0.86%. And again, when we do the rate hearings, what we'll be focusing on is the items that are listed in the Moorhead Public Service portion of this utility bill. So if there are any other questions, they should probably be posed to, to the City Council. I know they had their second hearing on rates last night, or fees, and I believe they have one more coming before they approve them, and that'll probably occur in November or December. So if you have any questions on that would be the forum to address those. And with that, I think if you want to go into the hearings, because I've used my allotted time. Thank you.
Correct.
The hearing shall be conducted by the chairperson or commissioner selected by the commission. At the hearing, the commission and the staff shall present the facts establishing the need for and the reasonableness of the proposed rate change. Sufficient time shall be allowed to enable all interested parties to be heard, but the commission shall determine when all relevant testimony has been presented or when testimony has become a petition. Testimony will be considered only after the speaker has been recognized and the person has identified him or herself. For 3 days subsequent to the closing of the hearing and prior to the adoption of a rate change, written testimony shall be received and considered by the commission. The commission may grant extensions prior to the adoption of the rate change if it finds that additional testimony is necessary or not. After all relevant testimony has been submitted, the commission shall adopt rates which it determines to be necessary and reasonable, including the effective date. Do you have to redo the whole thing? After all relevant testimony has been submitted, Note to self, turn on the microphone. After all relevant testimony has been submitted, the commission shall adopt rates which it determines to be necessary and reasonable, including the effective date, and cause the same to be published in the official newspaper of the city. So at this point, I would like to have you guys consider a motion to open the rate hearing for the electric division.
Is it my turn?
That's your turn.
Okay. I would move to open the hearing.
I'll second that.
Everyone in favor? Aye.
Aye.
That's, electric rate hearing is open.
Okay, and then I'll start the presentation, so if you could put that up there, Cheryl. Is it?
It is.
Oh, it is? Okay. Do they want to put it up on the screen? Okay, this will start the electric rate hearing for the 2020 electric rates of Moorhead Public Service. I'll go through a number of slides here and basically present the need for the rate changes, although as we previously discussed, there's no increase in the electric rates. Changes in some fees, though, require us to have a rate hearing. So how are the rates determined? Moorhead Public Service does cost of service studies every, several years. Last one was in 2018, where we go into a lot of detail on where the costs come from and how we should charge for those costs. We are not-for-profit utility, so basically we try and put together rates that are equitable and charge everyone where the costs occur. We do long-range planning, talk about our capital expenditures, look at the transfers, look at reserve requirements, purchase power, all of those details. Then we do a 4-month review of our budget. We have a budget committee that goes over its details. And then we have a proposal, which again, on the electric side, there is no increase, but some fee changes. This is the public hearing that we're having tonight, and then we do final approval in either late November or mid-December generally. So the rates and fees that are changing, as I mentioned, and we have a really nice forecast, no increase for 2020. Actually, we're not looking at anything through 2024. The only one that we're dealing with right now, though, is 2020. We are actually decreasing our dual fuel heating rates based on our cost of service study, and we're increasing, based on that same cost of service study, the street lights by 4.9%. There's slight changes in security lights as well, and then we are looking at lowering late charges from 5% to 1%, and also reducing some of the other collection-related charges. Here's some detail on those charges and the impact to the electric and water division revenues. The late charge percentage rate from 5 to 1% is about $100,000 hit to both electric and water. Similarly, the disconnection and reconnection charges has about $105,000 impact to both electric and water. As noted, the electric division is able to cover that with no increase in the overall rate. The disconnections, just for information, the disconnection used to cost $70 for a disconnect and a reconnect. That actually is going to be waived for the first month that happens, and then reduced to $30 total, or $15 for a disconnect and $15 for a reconnect. Also, on the very bottom line there, after our emergency call-out fee has been, we're proposing that is eliminated. And we believe that some of these things will help from a customer service standpoint and for residents that are struggling to pay their bills. We tend to believe that we're piling on a bit, and we are transitioning to automated metering infrastructure, which will reduce our marginal costs for doing some of those collection activities. So but we're doing that just a bit early. Here's an advertisement. There is a number of renewable energy programs that we would like you to participate in if you're so inclined or interested. We have, over the years, had a number of participants in our Capture the Wind and Capture the Energy programs. We actually, and Capture the Sun. Capture the Sun is a bit newer, about 5 years. You'll see a letter coming out from myself, Bill Schwant, usually in the springtime, with a contract asking if you would like to purchase a solar panel. And we're encouraging people at this time to allow us to put solar panels out in the field. You can buy 20 of them if you want to now, and if you were going to put them on your home, that's probably the amount that you'd be putting on your home. These are substantially cheaper because we do them in bulk and we do them out in the field. So there's my advertisement for that. The other advertisement is Capture the Earth is a new program where we're looking at substantial rebates for geothermal heat pump systems and cold climate air-to-air heat pump systems. If your air conditioner is going out, central air conditioner primarily, but other air conditioners fine too, but if your central air conditioner is going out, you may want to check out our rebates because we're rewarding early adopters in the heat pump realm. So yeah, those are some, and then electric vehicles, we're doing some things on electric vehicles as well. There's my advertisement. Well, here's one more advertisement. So to be introduced in 2020 is a new program right now called Bright Energy Choices. Don't have a nice logo yet for that. But basically, if you want to become 100% renewable at your home or business, you can pay extra and become 100% renewable. Right now, you're about 63% renewable with the resources that we have. But if you want to make that 100%, you can do that. For an average homeowner, it's about $19 per year. And I have signed up for that for 2020. So I'll be the first one. I'll be 100% renewable next year. So here's a few more tables here talking about basically no increase. So there's a lot of detail on this slide about single phase residential, which has no increase. So the customer charge unchanged at $14.40, again for the average customer. Energy charge June through August, we do have seasonal rates, so that those seasonal rates from June through August, higher in the summertime, is 10.4 cents per kilowatt hour. Energy charge for September through May, a bit lower charge, 8.9 cents per kilowatt hour. So higher for us to purchase power in the summer months than it is in the winter months. In the other table, dual fuel is actually going down just a bit, from 4.5 cents per kilowatt hour to 4.3 cents per kilowatt hour. The proposed electric rate, basically no increase, is those numbers again for the average residential customer charge of $14.40 unchanged, and for electric consumption for the average consumer using 850 kilowatt hours per year, $78.84, for a grand total of $93.24 for the average residential user. Just some more detail on small general service and general service. Again, all the right-hand columns are zeros, so no change for our medium to larger customers. Oops, it delayed a second there. And the impacts for the average electric consumer for electric and water, and I'll talk about water in detail, but that electric rate, no increase for 2020, and for water, for the average consumer, it'll be $2.26. about a 6% increase. Where does your payment go for the electric division? Of course, purchase power is our biggest expense at just under 50%. City transfer is around 20%. And then we got a lot of, well, any capital expenditures that we've got that we're financing internally is the next largest. Then we round it off with salary, principal and interest and other. How does the 2020 rate change compare historically? You can see from the graph, it's we've got a nice series of zeros going on here. And I was looking at this chart earlier and looking at the 4.5% that we had back in 2017. And it's like you'd ask yourself, why didn't we just, lessen that one and have a couple of smaller ones going out? And really back at that time, and Mark Moylan had talked about the transmission grid around here, we had transmission reimbursement discussions that were happening with the Southwest Power Pool, and we really didn't know what those reimbursements were going to be. So we've been pleasantly surprised with the amount of reimbursements that we've had, and that's been able to keep our rates stable here for the next few years. So how do our rates compare to other utilities? Looks like we're right in the middle. XL of Fargo is a bit lower than we are. XL of Minnesota is a bit higher than we are. And the two cooperatives that are in this area are also a bit higher than we are. So the average home, and I know this is difficult to see, but this is a representation of the actual bill that you will receive in 2020. So for a home, and this slide is for a Moorhead home, again, that average home, the total bill will go up about $3.93. This includes city charges as well. The only change is the $2.26 for water, that's going up by 6%, and the $1.67 that's going up for wastewater. Again, as was noted earlier, Moorhead Public Service Commission deals with the top half of that bill. The City of Moorhead deals with the bottom portion of the bill. And they've had their rate hearings, and those continue. The last slide we have for the electric division is the same slide as before, but this one is for a Moorhead apartment. And we are trying to educate, because there's more and more apartment people that live in apartments in Moorhead, and so this impacts their bill. Again, the top half of the bill is Moorhead Public Service. Of course, in an apartment, they don't pay for water, so the impact is strictly electric, and there's no increase, so there's no change on the electric portion of the bill. The bottom section is City of Moorhead. There's a change in the fixed charge for wastewater per apartment of 95 cents. And so the total Moorhead utility bill will be going up from about $111 for an apartment to just over $112 per month. With that, that's the presentation for the electric division. Back to you, Mr. Chair, and you can open it up for comments.
Yep. So if there's anybody in the audience who would like to comment on the proposed electric rates, let us know. I know we have a couple of people in the audience. Commissioners, you guys have anything? So with that, I think we can then close the electric rate hearing. So if anybody would like to make a motion to close the electric rate hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. We have closed the electric rate hearing. So I'd like to open the water rate hearing.
Move to open the water rate hearing. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Schwandt?
Okay, now we'll continue on with the water rate hearing, and it'll be very similar to the electric rate hearing, although the percentage, or the percentage increase is higher. Okay, and similarly, the water rates are determined through regular cost of service-based rate studies. We consider our long-range planning, and I will get into the capital expenditures. The Water Division has a number of capital expenditures and water main replacement, those types of things that will be impacting our budget. The Budget Committee does an in-depth review. The Commission does that also. We talk about it for 3 to 4 months and go over it quite extensively. We have a proposal from the Budget Committee. We have this hearing, and then we do the final approval, which is expected on December 17th, 2019, again for the 2020 rates. So as I mentioned, the capital improvements are extensive over the next 5 years. The Water Division is looking at $36 million in capital improvements. Most of that will be financed. However, when we do finance that, there's debt service to be paid, and therefore the rates have to cover those debt service payments. And I'll just go over most of them here, the largest ones. The $12.7 million to replace the South Buffalo Wells raw water line, water transmission line. That's the raw water line that goes out to the Buffalo Aquifer between Dilworth and Glendon. There'll be a $7.3 million lime sludge dewatering plant that is necessary to meet the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency requirements. This is one of those capital improvements that we worked very hard to try and avoid, but alas, we could not avoid it, and now we're this next year we're just taking bids on that, and that'll be a $7.3 million expenditure to basically squeeze the water out of our lime residual that we used to pump to ponds up by the energy park. So the next one is $6.4 million over the next 5 years to do water main replacement projects. 28 miles of cast iron water main that remains within Moorhead that we have had on a increased schedule to replace over the past several years, and that continues. $3.1 million to build a Southside water tower and transmission line. As we'll discuss further on in our fire protection slide, water towers are needed for fire protection primarily, not for potable water. And then $6.7 million for other upgrades and replacements, sandblasting the I-94 water tower, updating that, updating equipment that's in our 20-year-old water treatment facility that we used to call the new water treatment plant, but now it's 20 years old. The proposed water rates, this is the monthly customer charge. The percentage increases look higher. Overall, it's still a 6% increase, but from 2019 to 2020, for instance, for the 5/8 and 3/4 inch meters, it goes from $11.80 to $13.20. Again, based on our cost of service study, this is the customer charge that was appropriate to cover our costs. Previous screen was the fixed charge. This is the commodity charge or the volume charge, and this is based on every 100 cubic feet is the rate. So we basically go through residential, apartment, commercial, and industrial, and the overall increases to those are listed. Six for residential. Apartments, it's slightly less, and that's to the apartment building itself. Commercial 6.3, industrial 5.0. That's the volume charge. So the proposed water rate increase net impact to the residential customer The customer charge on a 3/4 inch meter goes from $11.80 per month to $13.20, or $1.40 of the increase. The commodity charge is going from, this is the volume charge, $24.12 to $24.78. And then the fire protection charge is going from $185 to $205. The total is $37.77 to $40.03. Council talked last night about fire protection and whether we could change the name of that. It's really a capacity charge, or combine it in with, say, the customer charge, maybe some options. And there's a slide coming up. We can talk about that a little bit. So some of the fee impact changes, this is a similar slide to the electric rate increase presentation. It does affect the water as well, because they pay a portion, or they received a portion of those late fees and disconnection and reconnection charges. Again, with automated metering infrastructure coming, basically there will be a very small marginal charge, so these charges can go down. And the after-hour emergency call-out fee is eliminated as well for water. Where does the money go? The largest is salaries, wages, and benefits at about 30%. The next largest is principal and interest on all those capital, all that capital that's out there in the water infrastructure. Third, I believe, is the other, and then chemicals is always a large, that's the largest variable charge to producing the water.
Actually, it looks like the interest is the biggest, right? The orange?
Yep, I think you're right.
That's
Yep,
32,
yep,
right?
Yep.
Okay.
Principal and interest largest on all that capital equipment, 32%. Salaries and wages, 28%. So, yep, thank you, Ralph. Next slide is how do we compare with other utilities? The two blue ones in the middle are Moorhead Public Service 19 and Moorhead Public Service 20. So, and we don't have what the other utilities are doing, but just like the wastewater department, I think all these capital intensive utilities have been raising rates. So I wouldn't be surprised if the other ones, the orange bars, move up in 20 as well. Excuse me, we've got Fargo and Grand Forks on the left, and East Grand Forks, Fergus Falls, and Thief River Falls on the right. And those are similar treatment processes to ours. Fargo, however, does use a sales tax to hold down their water rates. So when you buy in Fargo, all you Moorhead residents, you're helping support Fargo's water utility. So fire protection, this is the fire protection fees that has been phased in over a number of years. There's a number of classifications from residential, commercial, apartments, and industrial. And again, as noted there, it covers the costs associated with having the capacity to supply water for fire protection. So it's larger, water mains, water towers. If it was just for potable water, we really wouldn't need water towers. Those are for fire protection. And also the high pressure pumping stations that we use. So some of those costs in our cost service study has been broken out and classified as a water, or as a fire protection fee. And the council had some issues with that. We'll take a look at it and maybe do something with that. But in an effort to unbundle, to be a bit more educational and descriptive on things, that's what we're looking at. So this graph might be just a bit more interesting than the water one, or on the electric one, excuse me. They were all zeros from 2018 and on. For the water side, not so much. We've had to have some significant increases to cover a lot of capital expenditures for the water utility. Again, other utilities are doing the same thing, other water utilities. So those orange and blue bars from a couple of slides ago are going up. But we had a series of 6.5% increases. Then we actually dropped it a couple to 5.3% increases. Now we're back up to 6% increases. And again, we presented the budget to the council last night, talked about these increases. We had looked at like 5 to 8%, and our staff has really taken a look at this and really think that 6% is what we need for this year. And if you look at those capital expenditures that are coming down the pike, we really do need to hold. My recommendation is to hold at that 6%. And then, as we discussed last night, we'll look at next year and the year after and see if there's some things that we can do. And we are looking at a number of things that we possibly can do. Again, we try and delay those capital expenditures as much as we can, but water mains, for instance, cannot be delayed anymore because we get big lakes of water in the streets. So the 2020 proposed electric and water rate impacts, again, similar slide to the electric cost of service or the electric rate hearing. No change in the electric, so the 2020 average MPS bill would be $93.24. Water charges $40. Net impact plus $2.26 per month for the average customer for water and electric. Total of $133. Similar slide to before, so these are the last two slides, and I know they're a little small. The impact to a Moorhead home, again, the Moorhead, this will be what the Moorhead utility bill will look like. The Moorhead public service portion of it is electric and water, and it'll go up by $2.26 per month. The city of Moorhead's portion of that, with a number of charges on the bottom half of that bill, the wastewater charge would go up by $1.67. Total impact to the Moorhead utility bill would be $3.93. That's for an average single-family resident in Moorhead. For an average apartment, the utility bill would go up by 95 cents because there is no water increase and there is no electric increase for the apartment resident. The wastewater charge would go up by 95 cents per month. And so that's the overall impact to them. With that, I'll hand it back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks so much. So anybody like to have some comments on the proposed water rate increase of 6%? Audience? So $36 million of project in the next 5 years. It's
big.
That's a big chunk. And like we said before, we didn't expect a sludge plant, but that's a requirement from the MPCA. So anyway, if there's no comments, I would entertain a motion to close the water rate hearing for tonight.
I would move to close the hearing.
Do you realize the power you have? If you didn't second, you would be sitting here for the whole night. So all in favor? Aye. So we have closed the meeting. One quick comment from my end. We will receive written comments for 30 days from the date of this hearing, and no action will be taken by the Commission on the rates until 30 days from the date of this hearing. Approval of the proposed water rates, electric stays the same. I guess we have to approve both, though, because we have the fee changes too.
Fee
right?
changes, correct.
So proposed water and electric rates is scheduled for our meeting on December 17, 2019. That may change. We may do it in November, but we would give notice, right?
One time in the past several years, you did it in November. Typically, it's the middle of December.
So expect middle of December. As we said earlier, we're going to look at the rates more and look at expenses and see what else can be done, but that was the proposal for today. Cool. And with that, I believe we're done for the evening, right?
Yeah, there's nothing else on the agenda, so there's no closing,
No
so.
closed session. We have our meeting coming up on November 4th, if needed. Are we going to have that meeting?
We were planning on having that, talking about power supply.
Power supply, got it. Then the regular meeting on November 19. If anybody would like a tour of the water treatment plant, aquifer, let us know. And then we have legislative rally, the APPA, in February. I don't know whether we're going to go or not. We'll see what's happening there. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you very much, guys.